you should be getting your work done, and you can be learning, at least in part, how to do a conclusion. So there are three things to do in the conclusion: restate the thesis, recap the ideas, and make a lasting impression. So the so to look at these a little bit, and you can see, so number one, restate the thesis. Begin your conclusion by reminding your reader about the point of your essay and how you built that point. So this is how did you build the thesis out. The second thing is, and so that's going to correspond to the introductory paragraph. That's going to correspond directly to the thesis. Recap the ideas. This is going to correspond exactly to the body paragraphs. Here you summarize the body paragraphs in the clearest way possible. So you don't want to get, the body paragraphs are obviously quite long. You don't want to get too much into the weeds, but you really want to boil them down to their essence and present them in that fashion. So, and the final thing is to make a lasting impression. So remember we said in the lead, you want to make that strong first impression. Like the lead, first and last impressions have the strongest impact. This is scientifically proven. If you ask someone to memorize 20 numbers, they'll tend to remember the first numbers and the last numbers the best. The ones in the middle get mushy. So if you make that strong first impression at a party and then a nice impression at the end of the party, great. Think about this with your homework. Start good and end good. Maybe in the middle, use a little bit more time to see if you can do what you want. So you want that strong ending, that strong beginning. It's a good rule for life. So there you're going to create those strong impressions. Write a punchy and interesting finish that clearly wraps up and relates to your essay. So it can't just be interesting and like, oh wow, but completely unrelated to your essay. That leaves a bad impression. It needs to be connected to your essay. So here we go. So we're not to your exit ticket yet. We're going to go ahead and go through the conclusion. So I'm going to go through this quickly because a lot of you, again, are not here. But if you have even part of your body paragraphs, or frankly, even your introduction, you'll be able to do a decent chunk of this. All you really need is your thesis statement to do the first part. So you can get a third of the way through, and actually even more, just so I'm going to drop this into the chat. Not super necessary to open this up because I'm going to be doing everything on screen, but wanted to make that possible. So again, so this is the document I've created, how to build a literary analysis essay. So this is the cookbook for you guys about how to do your work. So wherever you are at, you should be able to come to this. There's often going to be a video along with it, and it will tell you how to do this. So we're now to the conclusion part. So right here is the partial essay I've written so far as sort of this model essay, again, doing the Translating Grandfather's House. And you can see I've only done, this is just the thesis statement, and this is just one body paragraph. So I haven't even finished my intro here. So that shows you can get pretty far, even if you just have a thesis statement and a body paragraph. So what we're going to want to do, step number one, copy and paste the conclusion model from your assignment. You replace the material from their text with your work from the Medicine Bag and Translating Grandfather's House. So here is the conclusion that we had as a model. So you're just going to bring that up. So you have a model before you, and you can take a look at that. I'll make it a little bit bigger to make sure it's big enough on the screen for you guys. So, all right, so we've done number one. So that's the first thing. If you're following along, you should be working side by side. You should bring up that model. So what's the first step we should be doing with the conclusion? Mackay Clark, can you hear me? What's the first step? Or, let's see, we have some people in here, that's great. So the first step, Mary, what's the first step we're doing to create our conclusion here? Mary Prather.
Restate the thesis.
So, okay, yep. So that's going to be, exactly, that's going to be the next thing we're doing. We brought up this paragraph and now we're going to restate the thesis. Thank you, Mary. Okay. So the next thing we're going to do is to copy our thesis statement from our intro and place it next to the model. So this was our thesis statement right here. So you will take your thesis statement, just put it right next to this one. This is their restatement of the thesis. So what they wrote is, in conclusion, the authors O. Henry and Anne Bradstreet both use similar techniques to develop the theme of love in their works. Both authors use the characters' relationships, thoughts, and actions and word choice to express unique ideas of love. So you can see that, again, you can just use their model and that would not be an incorrect answer. I'm not going to be like, you know, this isn't plagiarism if you're replacing all the different things for yours with theirs. So in this case, so to make it simple, we can do that. So we would do Virginia Driving Hawks Sneeb instead of their author. Again, copying and pasting. If you don't know how to do that, it's a valuable skill. So Command C, Command V. EJ Vega is pretty short. We'll just type that in. We're doing the theme of family. If you can see the theme of family up here. So the theme of family in their works. And then we are not using these characters' relationships. We're using word choice, characters, and conflict. So they used a little bit more, we're using a little bit less. So, all right, so right there, and we just used it as a model. Now, we said compare and alter yours in a similar way as a model. We did exactly the same. But we could do it differently. You could do stuff like, you know, just thinking out, like I could look at this and say, in conclusion, you know, you'd want to probably keep to these two authors. And then you could say, you can make this one sentence, you know, rather than using similar techniques, you could just say, both use word choice, characters, and conflicts to develop the theme of family in their works. That's probably actually, you know, a cleaner restatement of the thesis. So let's go ahead and do that. We sort of like that more. So this is where you can sort of look at it. Both use so, and then now we have it cleaner, reads a little bit better, and we're ready to go on to the middle part. So, so then we can come down, look at our how to build. We're done with restating the thesis. So anyone, any questions about restating the thesis there? Okay, so then we need to recap ideas. So so you want to go ahead and at this point reread the model to get a sense of what they did. So what they wrote is Bradstreet's poem conveys the power and value of love as evidenced through how the speaker compares love to wealth and expresses that it may carry into death. O. Henry, on the other hand, has his characters go through actual sacrifices so that they may learn the value of their love is beyond monetary and worth the sacrifice. So looking at that, basically what we see is they have one sentence from each of those, probably expressing, it's a little bit of a mixture of different things, but probably relating to their specific themes. So what you would want to do at this point is look through your body paragraphs and think of sort of a one sentence way you would want to summarize the work in each. So we only have one paragraph, so I'll just use that as a model. So you can look at them one at a time. In the medicine bag, so the first one we had is word choice. In the medicine bag, grandfather writes about, Sneed writes about the grandfather. He had to follow the tradition to pass it down along with its history to the oldest male. When Martin accepts the medicine bag, this is a symbol of him accepting his family. If we look at the other ones we wanted to use, it was characters in conflict. So you can sort of even figure out, okay, what else would I put in the other body paragraphs? So thinking about, okay, that grandfather passing down that medicine bag and that being a symbol of when Martin accepted, the symbol of him accepting his family. And then our specific themes are always be proud of the family. And we want to do something with pride of the family and those things. So again, you can sort of use Sneev's story. It's not a poem. Conveys, that just means like it gets it across. The need. So we're not looking at love. We're going to look at the need to accept and be proud of your family as evidence in. So, and you can see they sort of have a couple things we didn't, but we're going to say because of our first paragraph, we know we're talking about passing down the medicine bag. So in grandfather's desire to pass down the medicine bag, and in Martin's acceptance of the bag and his friend's visits to his grandfather. So then we've sort of, because we were talking about the conflict is around his embarrassment. So we sort of, if we had written another body paragraph, we would have covered that. So you can even again sort of see into the future if you haven't written the body paragraph, know where you're going to go. You should know where you're going to go, and then the writing is just fleshing that out. So then we have the first work done. The second work we're going to be looking at is translating Grandfather's House. And if we look for what we wrote, we had translating grandfather, this is in the body. The author uses very specific locations and descriptions like when the narrator says, my mom was born on the second floor, or Oscar Jardine broke bones falling from the roof on a hot Tuesday. These specific details emphasize how well the narrator remembers his grandfather's house and where his family came from. So, okay, so we have those specific items from word choice, and then we want to go up to our thesis. And the message we took out is trust your family origins, even when they are questioned by others. And then we were also going to do it through characters and conflict. So the conflict there is between the teacher and the narrator. So we want to start thinking about that. We'll go ahead and put in Vega's poem. We'll keep it even on the other end. The narrator's clear memories of his grandfather's house and family background are rocked. Remember, like when the teacher questions it, like they're as sure as rivets, they're as sure as these like bolts that hold big buildings together, sort of start crumbling. Instead of using sort of a more everyday thing like rock, we'll use our shaken when the teacher does not believe him. And he faces a test. So this is like the conflict, the word choice. About we want to specifically get it related to our theme. That's the body. The trust your family origins even while they are questioned by others. So trust in his family's history. So we'll just leave it like that. So that sort of gets a summary of what we would have talked about. Of course, if we had other body paragraphs, we could have done a little bit more clear work on summarizing that, but we're just working out of this model, which does simplify things a little bit. A lot of this, once you've worked through it, it should sort of be in your head, so you should just be able to keep typing through. You're not going to have to like, hopefully you have momentum coming through, you've written all your body stuff, and then you just can sum them up quickly. So then we've done the recap of the ideas. The lasting impression, we can consider what we did for our league hook, because it's sort of similar. We want a punchy reaction. Think of the most interesting and relevant ways to make the point of your essay. Write that in and make sure it flows well. So flows well just makes it keeps going with the essay. So looking at our, well, we don't have a hook on this because we didn't have the intro, but some ones that people had offered are something like, you know, have you ever been embarrassed by your family? Something like that. So we could think if we had done that as a hook, Um, the if we had done it as a hook, then we have sort of this frame of embarrassment. We're looking for that punchy finish. The trust your family's history. The pride in the medicine bag. Both text, both authors. Now we'll go with the text, even though make one thing clear. Being accepting and proud of our families, history, part of being proud of ourselves. So then we have this punchy conclusion that sort of connects the what we wrote in our essay to something that the reader is going to find interesting, the reader will remember. So then we have the lasting impression done, and then we just want to do a proofread. And then you can compare it to the model. I followed the model pretty closely, so I'm not going to bother with that as much. But you can go ahead and reread the model, make sure it does look similar. And want to go ahead and take it out of all this highlighting. And we don't see any Google highlighted errors. If you did, you would want to do the tools, the spell